There was a moment when something inside you said no, not loudly, not with certainty, but it was there, and you felt it clearly enough. Then something else arrived, a reason, a reframe, something that made moving forward feel acceptable. And you did, not because the signal disappeared, but because it got a different name. We tend to think of intuition as something we either follow or ignore. But there is a quieter thing that happens between those two options. The moment when the signal is already present, and the mind begins building a case around it. Think about a conversation that felt slightly off. Not the words were fine. But something in the rhythm was wrong. A hesitation that lasted a fraction too long. A response that arrived a little too smoothly. Something in you noticed. And then another voice stepped in. You're overthinking this. There's no real reason to feel this way. You've always been fine before. So the signal was set aside. The conversation continued. Because the reasoning sounded right. And the signal had no evidence. Or something quieter. You were about to say something honest, in a moment where honesty would have cost you something. There was a small flicker. Say it. But the mind moved quickly. The timing, the reaction, what it might change. And instead of the honest sentence, something safer appeared. The signal was heard. The decision was made not to follow it. This is one of the more precise things the mind does. It doesn't simply ignore the signal, it reclassifies it. The quiet hesitation becomes overthinking. The sense of misalignment becomes insecurity. The pull away from something becomes fear of change. The pull towards something becomes impulsiveness. The signal is still there, but it has been renamed, filed under something smaller, something easier to dismiss. And once it carries a smaller name, it carries less weight. This happens quickly, often before awareness catches it. Because the mind prefers the path that requires less disruption. Following the signal often means changing something, saying something uncomfortable, leaving something that still looks fine on the surface. Overriding the signal is easier. The reasoning is already available, the logic already holds together. So the mind gives you a story. And the story sounds like clarity. But underneath it, the signal is still there, quietly. This is why certain moments feel familiar when you look back at them. You remember the hesitation. It wasn't hidden. It wasn't subtle. It was there. And if you look closely, you can also remember the moment the explanation began. The moment the signal was renamed. The moment the reasoning arrived, just in time, to make moving forward feel right. The signal didn't disappear. It was translated, and the translation was easier to accept than the original message. This isn't a failure of awareness. The signal exists. The override exists, and both feel like you. The part that notices, and the part that reorganizes what was noticed. What changes is not the ability to always follow the signal, but the ability to recognize the moment when the renaming begins. The hesitation that becomes anxiety, the unease that becomes overthinking, the pull that becomes something easier to dismiss. There will be another moment like this, a quiet signal, a clear explanation arriving just behind it, a case being built, And in that moment, just before the override completes, there is a fraction of a second where both are visible, the thing that noticed and the thing that is about to explain it away. That moment is easy to miss, but once you have seen it, it becomes harder to pretend it wasn't there.